So hi, welcome to Anchor Reviews. This is Tyler from Anchor Reviews, and this is my review on Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now, if you want to see my review on the other Planet of the Apes movies, you can just check them out on my channel. But anyway, so this is the first Planet of the Apes movie that 20th Century Fox has made in a long time. The last one being War for the Planet of the Apes back in 2017. It's been a long time coming. So basically, generations later, we have a new cast of apes who are trying to thrive in their own communities. And then, of course, we have a villainous character named Proxima Caesar, played by Kevin Durand, who wants to become a Caesar-like character, except more in the ancient Roman sense and less of the Caesar ape from generations prior. And he wants to, of course, build his own kingdom by forcing a bunch of these clans together under his rule. Now, the thing is that this movie is really good. I really enjoyed this one a good amount. I would say at the very least it is one of the better, if not maybe possibly the best of the ape movies. But I gotta say, without really trying to spoil anything about the movie, or at least one noticeable negative thing I have about it, and it's kind of a common criticism I have of a lot of the ape movies, at least of the rebooted series from beginning with Rise of the Planet of the Apes and onward, is that my problem is that with these movies, I never really could put my finger on it for a while until watching this movie. It kind of occurred to me that the pacing for this movie isn't really that good. It's kind of a bit too slow at times. I felt like the pacing could have been better. And I noticed that with the other movies too, when I rewatch highlights of them, and I'm like, oh yeah, these movies are kind of slow. The pacing is definitely something that's kind of a common weakness of these movies. I'm not saying that every movie needs to be super fast paced and just get to it without any world building. I think that's important for any movie. I just felt like the pacing of things could have been better. At least they could have been told at a more efficient rate. But back to the movie itself. So this movie was directed by Wes Bell, who is best known for directing the Maze Runner movies. And yeah, he did an excellent job in terms of knowing how to do visual effects, because the Maze Runner movies were very effects heavy, and this movie is also very effects heavy. And I gotta say, this is easily some of the best visual effects I have seen this year so far in 2024. At the very least, this movie should get nominated for Best Visual Effects. I mean, it probably should win it too. I mean, I know that there's other movies we're gonna be seeing later this year that still have to come out. But I gotta say that, a lot of people have been talking about how visual effects lately have been getting kind of sloppy, and that's because a lot of these effects artists, they're pretty much underappreciated, I gotta say, by the way. I really appreciate and admire the hard work that they do. It's just that a lot of times they're stretched thin for what the work they have to do, and of course they're over demand, and the hours are really bad for them, which is why some of them want to try to unionize. And yeah, the effects in this movie look photorealistic at times, and there's moments where I'm like, yeah, that's a CG character, but in hindsight I'm like, well, it's sci-fi fantasy, so I can suspend my disbelief of these talking apes. And for the most part, the details are excellent, and also what's important too is just the performances are really nice to go along with that. And part of that is of course the actors playing them, but I also gotta say the visual effects animators are also actors in a way similar to that of Disney animators. I also appreciate too about this movie is that for the most part, most of the cast are a bunch of unknowns, or at least people that I personally have never really heard of. And I do like that in a movie where basically you can have someone who's cast just for their performance and voicing, which is nice to see that, because a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of older Disney animated movies, or at least during the time Walt Disney, was that most of the time they wouldn't cast famous people in voicing in characters. They would typically pick people for who was the best at the job, or maybe there was someone who used to be famous when Walt Disney was a kid and they were washed up by that point or weren't really famous anymore, but Walt Disney wanted to work with that actor or actress and have them in their movie. Now, the actors I do recognize, of course, was Kevin Durand as Proxima Caesar, who I also remember from Abigail, and yeah, he's definitely a pretty excellent villain. I would say definitely on par with Koba from the earlier movies in the same rebooted series, or Tim Roth as General Thade in the Planet of the Apes movie by Tim Burton. And yeah, I really liked his performance a lot. He was very good at being a presence, of being both menacing, with of course having no shortage of being megalomaniacal. However, I do think my one issue with the character was that I felt like he didn't have enough screen time. He definitely could have used at least an additional scene as his character. In addition, there was also Freya Allen as May. Now, the thing is that when I first saw her, I didn't recognize her instantly because I'm used to seeing her with her blonde hair, but I gotta say that her having darker hair makes it better with her character. At least it reflects her performance and, of course, the character she is, than just her more of her conventional blonde hair from The Witcher. Now, the thing is, without spoiling the movie, I will say that, well, without giving any context away, without spoiling anything, but there's a moment where these important characters are looking up at the sky, and I'm theorizing that they're hinting at what the next movie may be, and that could be, of course, well, the first Planet of the Apes movie from the 1960s with Charlton Heston. It could be like that. I'm just hoping that'd be cool to see that happen finally, with all this setup, with this universe they're building up with these movies. That would be pretty cool to finally see that happen. So as for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I think it's a pretty good movie. I really like the performances, the effects, and of course the story, but I think it does fall a little bit flat in terms of its pacing, and I think the villain could have had a little bit more screen time. So as for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I would give it about 3 stars out of 4. So anyway, this is Tyler from End Credit Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews, and I hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.